So we started to make correlations that people ate more popcorn when the plot was simple and would just unfold in front of you. That's why action films did so well. People would eat less popcorn when it was something really serious. My whole career, when people ask me what I did, I said, well, I changed the behavior of your customers. It's so human insight can look at those purchases and look at those buying patterns differently than an AI can. An AI can get you halfway there, but I still think it's going to take a lot of human insight and understanding human behavior to draw conclusions that the AI might miss. But it can be a great way to help you get started. It's great to know everything you can do inside of an area. It's great to know everything you can do inside of Mumbai. But if I'm staying at a particular hotel, it's also really nice to know what can I do within walking distance of that hotel that feels very much like a local lives there and not everything that's expected.
Alternate profession could have been.
Sniper.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jasravi. Subscribe to my channel for conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the branding, marketing, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas, ideas with rough and sharp edges. Hello, Roger. Great to have you on my show.
Pleasure. Well, I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's great to be here.
You started when you were in the creative field when you were just 19. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm 19 years old. I know, very young to be starting in advertising and marketing. I
Yeah.
actually got my first job at 17, but my first agency job was 19 years old.
Okay, that's awesome and very inspiring. So your brands DoubleTree and PetSmart were one of your few of your key brands.
Mhm.
And something that we'll be very curious to know about is that when the cookie strategy was being thrashed out for DoubleTree, you were in that room.
Yeah. Well, technically, I wasn't in the room when the idea was pitched.
Okay.
Um, Joe Salumbier was the account executive. I knew that it was going to be pitched. We had talked about it internally. He led the account. They don't let 19-year-old kids in rooms with CEOs all that often. But the conversation when Joe came back and the reception by the DoubleTree executives was very positive. And the conversation stemmed not necessarily around the cookies, but what they meant. And that was a big lesson that I learned then was that the hotel became your home away from home. It wasn't just another bed for the night. And that made a big difference in how you approached marketing and messaging and the customer experience.
For my Indian audience, I'll just do one headline, but one asterisk. DoubleTree is managed by Hilton Worldwide, and it has been the fastest growing chain of hotels since 2007. There are a lot of them in India as well.
Mhm.
So, Roger, and it's not one of the premium properties.
No.
Yeah, it's not. So, how did this strategy play a role in making the hotel such a prominent player in there? It's supposedly changed the way category operates. Some dynamics got changed. So just a cookie. Now, let's elaborate on this a little bit. Just a cookie as a welcome, symbol or an experience could change what consumers felt while they're staying in it.
Well, you have to start with the audience, and I'm old now. I'm going way back way back when DoubleTree at the time wasn't owned by Hilton. It was an independent, and at that time there weren't a lot of great hotel options for business travelers, not like there is today. And you had high hotels and low hotels, a lot of those, but you didn't have sort of a business traveler's hotel. And business people, they had to be on the road all the time. What DoubleTree recognized was if we could create a hotel that was for business travelers with all these great amenities, they would come and then potentially they would come again with family if they really loved the experience. If you're away from home and on the road so much, you miss home. And the idea behind the cookie wasn't about the cookie, it was to create a feeling of home. That sensory marketing of having a freshly baked chocolate chip cookie delivered to your hotel room, welcomed at the front desk if you checked in. The hotel became synonymous with your home away from home. And that's what made all the difference. And even today, you'll find hotels try to find something unique about them that separates themselves from everybody else. It could be extraordinary experiences, or, obviously there's a luxury category or personalized service. But they all try to find something a little bit unique. But DoubleTree was one of the first hotels that really carved out a niche for itself. And I think that's what led to its growth. So its rapid growth.
So the senses that got evoked because of the freshly baked cookie, the smell, it
Mhm.
just created a memory structure or kind of got linked to feeling at home, and that became a subconscious pull for the travelers to come back
Yeah.
again and again and again. And it was such a small thing, but it was brilliant marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can go off, there was actually one hotel in the DoubleTree chain in the early 90s that the kitchen for the hotel, the main kitchen, was behind the wall of the lobby. And when they were doing construction, they were doing also test cooking. They decided to put in a vent with a blower. So whenever they made the chocolate chip cookies, they would blow the smell into the lobby. And you don't have to, you could walk in as, without a hotel reservation, just buy the cookies. They would sell them at the front desk. But that hotel sold more cookies than any other hotel in the entire chain, simply because they used that marketing technique of having the lobby smell like freshly baked chocolate chip cookies.
Wow. Amazing. So that kind of stayed with you, was something, anyways, like this learning caught you young, if you could say that. So,
Yeah.
what do you think was the crux of the whole experience, your learning that stayed with you, that it is not about marketing a product and it is about evoking an emotion? Are you selling an experience? What is it that stayed with you?
Well, at the time, I didn't have the behavioral science training to explain it. It was like pulling work out of the ether. But what I did realize is that when you were creating marketing or advertising, it wasn't about selling the product or service. It was about creating a difference in people's life. It was tapping into something that was important to them, which is now motivation, and leveraging that so that they can have an experience that is in line with their own desires and the relevancy to the situation. That became the driving force. It was never how clever could the idea be? How do we sell people or convince people to buy something? You can't, and you don't. And what most marketers don't realize is that not everybody is your audience. But if you can find the right audience whose needs line up with your product or service, having that conversation and showing them the meaning behind the product or service and why it's important in their lives, that can change a business in profound ways. You don't have to sell to everybody. You just have to have the right conversations with the right people in order to see sales and customers for life.
Roger, you've had a huge, portfolio of brands you worked with. You worked with Nike, PF Chang's. By the way, PF Chang's
Yeah.
is there in India also. WD-40,
Mm.
lubricants, and so many other brands. Uh, I want to, I have picked this one, particular example that I want you to talk about. And I will just say a phrase, popcorn insight. Yeah. So, So, Roger, how is it that you managed to respect the business model, they had, the cinema halls, and got to the real problem, real challenge, to, help them sell more popcorn?
Yeah. So I started working on a movie theater chain. Uh, and when we first, when I first met the owners and the C-suite, they said something to me that sort of stuck. I didn't understand how important it was at the time, but they said, "Yeah, we're not in the movie business. We're in the popcorn and soda business." And they basically just referenced that the movie theaters make their money, their true money on concessions, just because of the way licensing fees work. So if you're going to have a better moving experience, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. One of the things that are out of our control is the kinds of movies that are made. What is in the control of the movie theater are the types of movies and the mix of movies, how long they stay in the theater. Sometimes movies will move around the theater from larger screens to smaller screens. Like all that operational stuff is in control. So what I had done was me and my team, we actually went to go see a lot of movies. And we just watched people more than we watched the movies. And so we divided the movies into different categories. You had your rom-coms and your dramas and your horror films and your action films, your documentaries. And I don't know, God, I must have gone to like 30, like 2 and a half dozen movies.
What a
And we
project.
just made, well, it's research. I wasn't really there to enjoy the movies as much as I was just watch people, watch what they would eat, how they would show up at the movie theater, in costume or in with a group of friends or couples. And you can really tell the difference between someone who's married and someone who's on a first date. I just like it's the body language is really obvious. So we started to make correlations that people ate more popcorn when the plot was simple and would just unfold in front of you. That's why action films did so well. People would eat less popcorn when it was something really serious. And so that sort of became the bookends for where do people actually eat and drink the most popcorn. Oddly enough, rom-coms, they did okay, but the problem is a lot of people are on dates and get half the audience have been married and they're together and they want to go see a rom-com together, romantic comedy. But then you get the other half of the audience, it's like a first or second date, and the last thing you want to do is be eating popcorn like shoving it in your face. So you ate less popcorn. It was just you wanted to be more dignified. But that became the solution for the client to understand how do we mix our movies so that we can optimize the popcorn and soda and concession sales. And that helped them leverage those concession sales to the maximum efficiency for sales. And it's not an ad campaign. Yes, they did a loyalty program and they did some of their own ads. The marketing was done in-house and how you showed up to the theater. And that led to them doing special events if there was like an Avengers movie or a Disney movie, having kids dress up as like their favorite characters and coming in. They would invite that extra experience so that you did something different than staring at the same screen that you have at home. And the entire experience with the concessions became something unique and an affordable luxury as opposed to, wow, you're just spending a lot of money on a movie that I can watch at home.
Amazing, isn't it? And if nobody had asked this question and this behavior had not been understood, what leads
No,
to more popcorn consumption? I mean,
yeah,
whatever the research methodology, the participant observation, I mean, of course, data and so many other things that you would have done, but it started with this question, what is the real behavior that needs to be
yeah.
changed and what is causing it? Uh, that's what we call, why don't you give us a definition of behavioral marketing?
Behavioral science is the science behind it. Um, behavioral economics is all the theories behind the behavioral science and why we purchase what we purchase. Behavioral marketing is taking those models and that theory and putting into practice so that you can enhance the customer experience and change customer behavior based on their motivations and preferences. And you can do that by increasing their ability to purchase or to experience something and prompting them at the right moment in time. And sometimes that's an ad. Don't get me wrong. I love TV ads and print. And sometimes it's a social media post. Sometimes it's experiential, like those little kids that showed up into the theater and the movie theater hiring an actress to be a Disney princess to just show up and greet them unexpectedly, right? That unexpected experience at an unexpected moment creates loyalty like nothing else. Um, so behavioral marketing is the practice of applying behavioral economics and behavioral science to a marketing situation that helps customers change behavior to help them do the things they really want to do. I mean, behavioral marketing doesn't manipulate anybody. I can't make anybody do anything. If you don't want to run a marathon, no matter what I do, I'm never going to be able to make you run a marathon. So you can only help the people who already want to perform the behaviors. If you hate movies, I can't get you to go to the movies. But if you like movies, I can certainly help you make that a more enjoyable experience and go more often.
There are many segues that we can get into here. Um, so I'm just making a note of it. We have to get into irresistible, surprising experiences. That is one segue. The other that you talked about prompts,
Mhm.
and that prompted me to talk about the BJ Fogg model, because, like you said, maybe initially, maybe that's what you were referring to, that you didn't have a language.
Mhm.
When you came across this model, it kind of really explained and unpacked a lot of behaviors and phenomenon that you were witnessing. I also want to understand, you talked about curiosity, Roger. Is it that marketers are sometimes just selling that emotion? Because again, that is something surprising and refreshing. So, for example, like a Doritos did this mystery flavors. Uh,
Mhm.
in FMCG, because you worked, how does it work? When they do these kind of familiarity with a twist kind of marketing, and all they're doing is selling curiosity.
What you're really doing is you're tapping into someone's motivation to experience what curiosity is all about. They have an instinctive um, manner about them to be curious. And there's a lot of other things that we tap into as marketers when you're looking at someone's emotion. You can get people to who want to be part of a group. They feel that need to be part of a group, and you can use something like collectivism where everybody will participate in something. I know in the United States we have like the pink ribbon for breast cancer, right? They'll organize walks and they'll raise all this money through the idea of collectivism. So you're not doing something by yourself to raise money, you're with a whole lot of other people, right? Gamification and play is obviously very, very big and has been used. And it's when you want your audience to have control over the environment. This is why advertising and promotions inside video games or branded content on TV shows work so well. It's a form of play, it's a form of gamification. Um, and there's things like, I mean, in social media, instead of curiosity, a lot of it is modeling. It's mimicking a behavior. The reason we have so many influencers is because you'll watch something and you'll be scrolling through and you'll be like, oh, I recognize myself in this person. I cycle, they ride a bike as well. They're talking about something that's really important to me. I want to look at that too. Or I love the way she does her hair, or I love the restaurant that they're going to. I love the place that they're traveling to. And it's using modeling to tap into that need and desire to experience what someone else experienced who you believe is like you. Um, and so again, it's not necessarily curiosity. It is truly using curiosity as a way to tap into an existing motivation, like modeling or using commitment or ownership or collectivism or any of those other things.
The Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that doesn't really change. So whether you want to belong or you want to feel safe, but essentially identifying aspiration, these classic always have been the way a protagonist is portrayed in ads, or either you're identifying or you're aspiring. If we take this ahead, what we talked about earlier, Roger, the designing irresistible experiences, uh, and if we take it from your experience at a particular hotel, uh, how and the inference is lovely, in terms of how the technology got used and how it was so delightful in a different country, China. So why don't you take us through that example of how that consumer experience that you yourself and your wife experienced, and how it's a great learning for marketers.
My wife found this amazing deal at the Four Seasons Beijing. I even had questioned her. I said, "It's four, right? Four." She said, "Yeah." And I just wanted to make sure. I went on the corporate website and like compared addresses and the whole deal. But it was a really good deal. We said, "Okay," we booked it. I downloaded their app just so I could be able to like get around and know. I'd never been to China before. I don't speak any Chinese. And we arrived at the hotel and we were greeted by the manager on duty. She gave my wife a dozen roses. They said, "Mr. and Mrs. Hurni, we'd like to welcome you to the Beijing's Four Seasons. We'll let you know that we've already checked you into your room. It's all set. I'll escort you up there. We'll handle all of your bags. This is for you, Mrs. Hurni. By the way, there's no tipping in China." And she brought us up, showed us everything. We walk into the room, showed us everything around the hotel. We walk up into the room. There's like swan towels, like towels made into swans on the bed with rose petals. And I didn't do anything special. I'm not a Four Seasons member. I don't have status. I stayed at maybe one or two other Four Seasons once or twice in my life, years and years earlier. And I had asked her, I said, how did you create this experience? I'm a marketer. I'm very curious. And she said, "Well, you downloaded our app and we had geofenced the airport. So we knew when you broke that geofence that given the time of day and traffic, you would be at the hotel in 35 minutes. That allowed us we get a text message alert that you broke that geofence, and that checked us into that we had you check into the hotel. We checked you into the hotel at that point. When you were a mile out, we got another text message. And so we grabbed the flowers and gathered everybody. And when you broke the geofence of the parking lot, we all walked outside to greet you. I didn't get any of those messages. I just got the experience. It's a fairly simple thing, and they pretty much do it for every guest, um, which I think is remarkable. I don't know how many hotels in the world can do that, but they did. And they used technology in the most subtle of ways because I didn't see the technology. And I think that's a good lesson for brands today, is because they think they have to lead with the technology. If they lead with the experience and allow the technology to help them execute the experience, they'll be far better off than just relying on technology to start.
Yeah, it was not, the technology part was not intrusive at all. No notifications, none of the usual stuff, and hence the surprise was even more lived, right? It
Oh
was
yeah,
great a surprise, because that's what created a surprise. How did you do
yeah.
it? Also, please talk about the car wash example, wherein your recommendation was slightly different when they wanted more customers. Your recommendation was, hello, why don't we maximize from the customers that we have?
So one of the mistakes that brands make is they tend to focus a lot on the wrong thing. Where I was working with a car wash brand, a national car wash brand, and they became focused on customer acquisition. And one of their executions was to geofence competitor car washes so that when someone like yourself went in to go get your car washed, you would get served up an ad if you were on Google or an app. You get served up an ad to come to our brand, to my client's brand, and get a free car wash or a free polish and shine or something, some deal. And they did a quick test case, and it didn't work. They spent quite a bit of money on the test case, and they asked me what went wrong here? What do we need to do differently to make this happen? And when you think about, from a behavioral standpoint, what someone's doing at moment in time, and again, I don't know how it is in India, but here in the United States, like nobody makes appointments to get their car washed. We do it when we have moments in time. A meeting got canceled on Thursday, and I have to go somewhere and pick up my kids. Since that meeting got canceled, I'll go get my car washed. I'm running errands on Saturday. I'll go get my car washed while I'm doing those errands. So we try to do it between doing a lot of other things, and we have a very limited amount of time, say 30 minutes. Time can motivate people to do things because you have enough of it, but time can also be a demotivator when it's compressed and there's very little time. And so I told the CEO, I said, you're trying to stop someone from performing behavior they're highly motivated to perform and have a very, very limited time frame to do it, to get in their car or turn around their car and drive to your place of business at that same moment in time. I go, nobody will ever do it. There's something called this ability chain in behavioral science that Dr. Fogg likes to point out, that time, money, mental effort, physical effort, and routine are 5 things that you have to overcome. And in this particular
Please say
case, you
that
can
again. Please say that
oh,
again. These 5 things.
sure.
Yeah.
The 5 things you need to overcome for any behavior to happen is routine. That's the first one. Well, these are not in any particular order. Routine is one of them. So if it's something that's non-routine and I want you to start to do something, I'm going to have to make that behavior as easy as possible. Like if you've never worked out before, getting you to sign up for a personal trainer would be very difficult. But maybe getting you to stand up and do some breathing exercises and maybe stretch for 1 minute by yourself is a good starting point. So routine is something you have to get over. If something has too much mental effort, if it's just too mentally taxing to get through, you can offer a different solution. This is why people have their taxes done by somebody else or by a program, right? Because doing your taxes is just very mentally difficult. If something is too physically difficult, physical effort, right? If I can't lift, 100 pounds over my head, right? I can't I just physically don't have the ability to do that. So mental effort, physical effort, routine, money. If something is way too expensive and no matter how much I want it, I can't buy it. And time. If I don't have the time to do something, I won't get it done. Uh, and if I do have the time, I can get it done. So you have to make sure all those 5 things of ability are checked, that there's no issue in any of them. And with this car wash, it's like, all right, it's already a routine they're performing, so no problem there. It's not a lot of mental effort, no big deal. There's no physical effort involved, no problem there. Money isn't the issue because you're giving away something for free, you're giving them a deal, but time becomes the problem. And so you will never overcome that barrier because of the way people get their car washed, right? People eat popcorn in the movie theater a certain way, people get their car washed a certain way. That's just the reality of the situation. So I asked them, I said, why is this important to you? Well, we want more customers. And I said, are more customers the most valuable thing to your business? And they said, no, the most valuable thing to our business is our subscription plan. That if you get on our subscription plan, if you get your car washed just 3 times in 1 month, you're actually getting one of those car washes for free because our subscription plan basically costs 2 car washes. So I said, then stop trying to acquire new customers. The quality of your service, the quality of the actual locations that are convenient for people, that will get new customers in the door. What you need to do is take the customers that are coming in once and getting them to come in a second time, and then a third, and then a fourth. And then somewhere around the 4th or 5th time, they'll either come to the conclusion or you can do a sales pitch or send them a flyer. You can do something that shows them the value to them of being on the subscription. It's called behavior sequencing. You create a sequence of behaviors that is like a choose your own adventure, so that within a few of them, it's a foregone conclusion that this is the best thing to do, brings me the most value. Then you create a second set of behavior sequences that demonstrate that value over time to prevent people from canceling their subscription. And you want to mitigate that, those cancellations. And this is what helped them triple in size in 3.5, 4 years, eventually selling to a PE firm. But it's that behavior analysis. It's that understanding how people act is what changes the business model and the marketing so that businesses can elevate to new levels. Doing the same thing over and over again, as I say, is over, right? Stop trying to do the same common marketing mistakes that everyone else makes. You mean something to people, discover what that is, and then find a way to have a conversation with your best customers, the ones that are the most highly motivated to use your product or service. That's how you can change your business in profound ways.
Wow. Did not just uh, got more business for the client, you've also got more loyalty. You've also developed a habit of a regular car wash and a deeper relationship with the brand. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I actually want to explain something. What's great about brands, anybody can get a sale. Quite frankly, sales are easy. Customers for life or customers for long periods of time, that's hard, right? So you can take an individual behavior, getting my car washed once, going to a movie theater once, right? Going to a hotel once. The goal of the brand is to build that relationship and demonstrate the value in that experience or that product so that that person goes again and again and recommends somebody, particularly on subscription-based businesses like a car wash or hair salons or something else like that might be a subscription-based business. You want to turn a set of individual behaviors into a habit. And once you see that value, your neocortex takes over and says, it doesn't really think about it. It almost prompts itself because you just do this thing all the time. And sometimes those prompts are environmental. Um, you look at yourself in the mirror. I need to get my hair done. I'm going to go to the same place I always go to because I'm in a habit. So that's the larger goal for brands is to take individual one-time behaviors, sequence them enough over time so that those become a habit. And that habit may be recommending, not necessarily buying. Like you buy a car once and that's not necessarily a habit of buying more cars from the same place, but you can be in the habit of recommending that salesperson or that dealership or wherever you bought the car from. That's the habit you're trying to perform. I mean, when I was working with Toyota, you know, dealers thought that we're in the job of selling cars. And I said, no, no, you're in the job of recommendations. Getting the car sold is the start of a relationship. You have 2 years and 25,000 miles of warranty where people are coming in to build enough of a relationship so that that customer is recommending you to everybody, or at least 5 or 6 of their friends. And then you go close those deals and then turn them into a recommendation engine. You're in the recommendation business. You're not in the car selling business.
Wow.
And it was just, this is what a speech I gave to all the Toyota dealerships in the United States. And it was just this revelation because I said, you should go back to the fixed ops manager, which is the servicing, and thank them because that's 70% of your profit. And they're the ones building the relationships to make those recommendations happen so the front of house can sell cars. I go, that's actually how your business works. And they never thought about it that way. And it was a really fundamental shift for them.
Yeah. But this whole thing, like you talked about salons also, Roger, in the service business, getting one-time person to a subscription, to commit to that kind of a relationship by giving more money is not easy until unless the consumer clearly sees a value for themselves and a higher value than otherwise, because most of the times the salons will say you give us this much kind of a very large sum of money, and over a period of time you will save this much, etc.
If you go to a hair salon, the value isn't what you paid for your hair to be done. The value is how you look afterwards, right? And you determine you want that value because before you went to the salon, you're like, oh my God, my gray is coming in, my hair looks frizzy, I haven't had it done and washed the right way, right? Whatever it is. You've determined that there's a value to having your hair look right. Prior to spending, and you have a number in your head. It's worth it for me to pay someone to do this for me, and I'm willing to pay X. You've determined the value ahead of time. Now, if the service and the outcome exceed the value you had in your head, you will repeat. But if it doesn't, you will not, and you will go find another resource. And that's true of anything. That's a natural human behavior. If you're going to a hardware store to buy a tool for your house, you don't want the tool. You want what the tool will do. There's a saying in marketing from years ago, nobody wants a drill. I want a hole.
Whole.
I need a hole. I don't want to buy a drill, but I have to, right? The value is the hole, not the drill. And if I go to a place that recommends the right kind of drill so it makes that easy as possible, then there's a value to going to that place. It is not, people get confused thinking that it is a transactional, I'm only willing to pay, $12 for a movie ticket. When it's 15, I'm not going to go because there's no value. That's because the experience hasn't given you the value of $15 yet.
Absolutely. Thank you for elaborating on that. Now, at this point in time, let's talk about B is equal to MAP also, your favorite model. What is it that's causing a behavior to happen, the desired behavior, and how motivation ability kind of plays? What was so beautiful, in it for you?
My whole career, when people ask me what I did, I said, well, I changed the behavior of your customers. Every single human behavior, from brushing your teeth to buying a car, comprises of three things. First is motivation. You have to have sufficient motivation to perform that behavior. If there's not enough motivation, you just won't do it. If you don't care about your teeth, you're not going to brush them, right? This is where I tell clients, not everybody's your customer. There's customers who do not have the motivation, and they will never be your customers, so stop focusing on them. The second is that the person has to have the ability to perform the behavior. If I don't have a toothbrush, guess what? I don't have the ability to brush my teeth because there's just not one there. I mean, I guess I could use my finger, right? But it's not the same, right? So you have to have enough motivation. The person has to have the ability to perform the behavior, and they have to be prompted at the right moment to perform that behavior. And again, that could be anything. Anything could be a prompt. If you want to lead a healthier lifestyle, you could put a Post-it note by your bedstand or set an alarm on your phone that when you get up in the morning, you're going to do 5 jumping jacks, right? You're the person who has enough motivation because you really want to lead a healthier lifestyle. You want to be able to exercise. You have the ability to be able to do jumping jacks. You know how to do them. You've been taught. And you use that Post-it note or that calendar to say, okay, I'm going to do it exactly when I get up. So a behavior is a specific person performing a specific action in a time frame or a context of a situation. And that person, to perform that behavior, has to have enough motivation. They have to have the ability to do it. And they have to be prompted at the right moment. That's the entire simplicity of behavioral science in terms of how human behavior actually works. It's just one of the frustrating things I come across when I explain this to clients is I've had marketers, and I've overheard marketers say, we're going to increase the behavior of our customer. We're going to increase the motivation of our customer. You're never going to increase somebody's motivation. Motivation ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. You can never time that. As a marketer, trying to help people perform the behavior they want to perform, I just have to find the people with enough motivation to want to do a certain behavior. If it's sustainable in a range, that's good enough. But I was telling my pool client one time, I'm like, you think everybody with a pool is your customer. I have a pool. I will never be your customer. And I said, why? I'm like, because it's just not worth my time. I don't care it'll take 15 minutes. I don't care that I'll save X amount of dollars. I don't have any pride in taking care of my pool. I will enjoy my pool and I'm willing to pay somebody else money to go do it. And therefore I will never buy pool supplies from you. So don't waste your time and your money and your effort on people like me. Take us out of the equation and spend your time on the people who need the help and increase their ability to take care of their pool, and you will get more sales. And
Right.
that's the simplicity of the fog model. Again, he does it for everything in human behavior. I use that model and I apply marketing to it, hence behavioral marketing.
So you've got to have the ability, you've got to have the motivation and a prompt. A
Right.
prompt is like a cue or a trigger, and that could
Mhm.
be the marketing message and catching you in the right context or the right frame of
Yeah.
mind. So the behavior can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a universal truth, whether you're in India or China or the United States or Canada, it doesn't matter where you are. That is a basic human truth. And so for brands, for marketers, the lesson is you start with motivation. You find the audiences that are right for you and you ignore everybody else. And that's a hard pill to swallow because a lot of people think, I want to sell to everybody. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. You're going to waste your time, your money. Don't do that. You find the people with the most amount of motivation, and then you make sure that whatever it is you're asking them to do, you can increase their ability to be able to perform that behavior. And then you find those key moments when it makes the most sense to prompt them.
And what if you made it easier for them? Are you going to cater to a larger segment, like digital transactions, phone pay, Google Pay, all these? They're trying to give you an incentive or making it easy for you to want to adopt it. How does that work?
Let's look. I will use you since you talked about like Apple Pay or Google Pay or something like that.
Yeah.
We can actually use that. And that really focuses more on product development. Marketers and brands are generally pretty good at finding the people with the right motivation. Too many of them concentrate on people who don't have enough motivation. That's a different story. But they're pretty good at finding the right people and the right audiences. They're pretty good at prompting them, figuring out where I need to put my marketing message. They have paid media people, PR people who know how to tell those stories. They're pretty good at the bookends. Where they have a difficult time often is ability. And that's generally where I start because brands will ask them to do much, like the car wash example. I'm asking you to get in your car. I'm asking you to come back to our wash. It's too much effort. We learned a lesson like this when email newsletters started first coming up. You would be like, give me your first name, give me your last name, give me your email address, your zip code, then hit submit. At some point, someone said, just put in your email address and click, right? Less steps make it easier. Apple, Google, they figured that out already when they developed that product of Apple Pay or Google Pay. All I need to do is hold my phone over and tap it. It's going to recognize my face. I don't have to punch anything. They've already made it as easy as possible for you to adopt it. But imagine if they didn't. Imagine if, oh, in order for me to use Apple Pay, it wouldn't recognize the NFC chip. I actually had to open my phone, put in my code. Then it was asking me to put in my zip code to confirm that it's me or confirm like where I'm at. Or if it asked me to insert the seller, right? If it asked me to do something else and then I had to tap, and then it made me sign a form saying that I agree to make this payment, like any one of those things make it far more difficult and it makes it harder. That's more difficult than me just grabbing my credit card and tapping, right? Or sorry, this is even before tapping, handing them my credit card and letting them swipe it and then just writing my signature. So the previous behavior was fairly simple. Hand the credit card, let them insert it, tap it, sign your name. How do we make that easier? Oh, I don't need to sign my name. I don't need to hand them my credit card. I don't need to worry about security. All I need to do is just wave my phone over and the payment gets accepted because it recognizes my face. I don't have to do anything. Apple Pay, Google Pay, it got adopted so quickly because it was easier and safer and help me create less anxiety than handing my credit card to a server at a restaurant. Now, in a lot of places I go in the world, they're smart because they do the transaction at the table. But in the United States, that person walks away with my credit card back where there's a cash register. That credit card's out of sight. I have no idea. And people get credit card numbers stolen all the time. There's no credit card number attached to Apple Pay or Google Pay, right? It's all digitally encrypted. And so even the person performing the transaction and processing the payment doesn't know the credit card number. They just know the transaction number. So this is what I mean by easier. If you're a brand or you're a marketer and you have a certain product or a certain process you take customers through, rethink it. Go back in and be like, what steps can I eliminate and still get the same outcome? That's how you can reevaluate your business. That's how you can make it easier for people to do business with you. And often that's the question that's never asked. How do I make it easier for my customers to buy from me? How do I make it easier for my customers to have a better experience? How do I make it easier to do whatever is important to my brand?
Yeah. And Roger, do the rewards work in this context? You get these points, there's a scratch card, gamification. How does that work? Are they just trying to encourage for repeat behavior? Are they trying to establish a pattern?
Yeah, they are trying to repeat behavior. They're trying to get you to come in more often. And rewards do work. The problem with rewards is that you've got rewards that work well because they're randomized, and you have rewards that necessarily don't work well. It used to be at a time where before Starbucks, um, you might have a punch card for coffee, right? And you'd go in and you'd punch the card, and all of a sudden the 10th punch, it's like your coffee is free. Okay, well, the very first time that happens, that's awesome. But now you're waiting for the next 10th cup. And that becomes difficult and becomes expected. And the second and third time, it doesn't feel special anymore. It's just a thing. And so I call it the slot machine effect. What you want to do is like what I said earlier, is randomize the situation so that you can get an unexpected gift or experience at an unexpected time. That randomization keeps you interested and makes you want to continue the relationship. So maybe that cup of coffee happens on the 6th, maybe the 11th, maybe the 8th. The fact that I don't know will keep me coming because I might get lucky. And when you do, you feel really special. That's exactly how slot machines work. Does everybody want to win $10,000? Yes, of course they do. But they're really happy when they win $50, or they win $100. And then they might lose 300 and then they win another 75. And they feel amazing again, right? You don't know when that win is going to come or in what amount, but every time it happens, no matter what the amount, it makes you feel really special. If you expected it, it wouldn't feel special and that reward wouldn't work. So, reward loyalty programs, they're great. But when they become so structured that you lose that surprise and delight element, you lose the ability to keep your customers engaged for longer periods of times. And
Yeah.
so that's really the lesson is brands have to figure out, yes, I need a structured program that you get these rewards, but how can I reward you in tiny ways that feel like high touch with low value to me so that it keeps you interested? And to this day, I'm at the highest level of American Airlines because I travel all over the world. I have no idea how their loyalty points work. I have no idea like when I hit another level. I have no idea how to hit another level. They just told me your next level is 200,000 points. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I have no idea how to hit it.
Mm.
And it's great when I do. I'm not sure if I'm really getting the value out of it because I don't really feel anything different. So
Mm.
that's where brands can make the mistake is that they lose the ability to surprise and delight their customers at random moments.
Wow, that's brilliant. And taking this forward, because like you said, the human experience, don't forget what you want your consumer to feel. So, when technology is being used a lot to personalize and it gets too structured, sometimes you lose the plot. So what is your recommendation, because you worked a lot for hotels and service industries, when they are trying to hyper personalize it, and now AI, Gen AI and agentic AI, I mean, it's really going to change the game. So how can technology, when they are at the service of the consumer, not lose the human touch?
AI is going to be a blessing and a curse. And the only people that are going to be employed 5 years from now are the people who know how to actually use AI. But AI is just a tool. And the problem is that you can use it to make a recommendation based on previous purchases, but it may not be what the person wants to do. And so you need to insert human insight. So we have more data now than we've ever had before, and all different kinds of sources. And AI can take all those sources and they can extrapolate key pieces to come up with a behavioral profile for Roger Hurni. And when you look at something like an Amazon, if I buy something and say, other people like you bought X, or because you bought this, here's other things that you can buy that are associated with it. The human insight, and that's AI can do that, but the human insight is perhaps what I bought is part of a larger behavior and doing something else. And what I don't need is a similar product or something else somebody bought because they were trying to accomplish something different. Perhaps what I need are products to help me get to my goal. And so you have to have that human insight in learning what is it about this product that they're buying and what does it mean to them? What are they trying to do with it? Because it might not be, oh, I bought a shelving unit on Amazon, therefore you should try to buy the ottoman. I'm like, no, no, no. Maybe I'm decorating my room and what I need is a painting. Something has nothing related to a shelf. And so human insight can look at those purchases and look at those buying patterns differently than an AI can. An AI can get you halfway there, but I still think it's going to take a lot of human insight and understanding human behavior to draw conclusions that the AI might miss. But it can be a great way to help you get started. And I think if you're going to be successful in business, you need to compete with AI. And I don't mean compete with AI as in me against AI. I mean me against everybody else with the AI in my back pocket.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to use AI, and me and AI together are going to compete against everybody else for that same job. But
Hmm.
it takes both of us.
Would you
Yeah.
say, Roger, that what Netflix initially did when they were doing, pushing similar movies, and then when they realized that, oh, the mood of the day has not been captured because that is going to impact what the customer wants to see, was something similar. Uh, and Roger, what would you say about the chatbots, where the human connection is not, getting established? Would you say this is a similar thing, what you're talking?
Chatbots can be functional. And for a certain amount of people, that's perfectly fine. The more AI driven and the more human like make you feel better interacting with it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that chatbot understands what you really want. And so with any AI, I know prompting is a really big deal, but that's still fairly elementary. It's learning about you and what you want and what's relevant to your experience. When the chatbots can start to do that, then they can they can create an experience or a set of recommendations for you that is only relevant to you. So one of my companies actually is an AI company we've been working in about for 8, 10 years, doing a lot of personalization through mobile app push notifications. But we've been asked to take it off of an app and bring it into the travel industry. So like on a website, it's great to know everything you can do inside of an area. It's great to know everything you can do inside of Mumbai. But if I'm staying at a particular hotel, it's also really nice to know what can I do within walking distance of that hotel that feels very much like a local lives there and not everything that's expected. Personal concierge on a website, I'm going to elevate that above a chatbot where you can say, I'm staying here. I love these kinds of things. what's the local equivalent experience to help me get them? That's a very unique itinerary than putting into ChatGTP. What are the 5 things to do in Mumbai while I'm there for 3 days? One of them is going to be much more relevant to you, more experiential, more unique, and give you a greater sense of the essence of Mumbai versus the 5 touristy things a regular chatbot's going to teach me.
A mid-tier hotel chain, not very because the luxury hotels can hyper personalize, and I mean
Yeah.
this sort of exclusivity is a given. You've got to create that. But for a mid-tier hotel, like we have Oyo in India, what are the kind of things they can do to hyper personalize for their consumers?
Yeah, but any hotel can do that. It doesn't have to be mid-tier. It doesn't have to be a big brand. You could be a one-off hotel that is an independent hotel. And you can have that kind of AA technology on your website. You also can go around that. I mean, I had a hotel experience. It was one of the top 100 independent hotels in the world in Italy, in this small little town called Priano. The personal service was so great that I actually think it might be the finest hotel experience I've ever had in my life. And this is one hotel. They're not a chain, they're not mid-size. This is one hotel. But it manifested itself in their attitude. First of all, it didn't feel like this ostentatious, like you paid so much money and now we're going to basically, kiss your A, in order to like make you feel special. It was the way they greeted you. It was my wife and I were chatting one time just in the lobby one of the days, and I got up to run to the men's room. She told me when I left that somebody came over and refluffed the pillow so that it felt nice and soft again when I sat down. She didn't ask them to do that. This is what they did. I was at dinner at one of their restaurants and they asked me what I wanted if I wanted anything from the dessert menu. I said, no, I'm kind of a chocolate person. I don't really want anything from dessert. 2 minutes later, the chef comes out with like 3 different chocolates that they use for different things, takes a chef knife and it's just like into a bowl and like creates this thing for me because he knew the server told him I like chocolate. I didn't want anything that was on their menu. Completely unexpected. That's how anybody, no matter what your brand is, but we're talking about hotels, you can find ways to customize the experience if you just work hard enough to understand your customers. And it happens through conversations. This same hotel, when we had checked in, I had told them I didn't want mayonnaise on my sandwich. I had this like food phobia about mayonnaise. 3 days later, I was by the pool. I ordered a sandwich. And before I could finish the order, the server said, and Mr. Hurni, we won't have mayonnaise on that for you. I never saw this person before. So somehow or another, they communicated internally that Mr. Hurni in room 215 doesn't like mayonnaise, so make a note of it. And it went everywhere inside that hotel. So, a lot of times brands just have to try a little harder. They have to think differently and then approach problems from that customer point of view. I didn't have to go see 30 movies, but it gave me insight that what if I didn't, right? And I've told hoteliers, I'm like, go stay at Casa Angelina in Priano, Italy for 3 days, and you will have a completely idea of what service is about, how you should handle food, how you should handle, the experience, and it will change you as a hotelier. But even in your everyday business, look, you sent me a Calendarly link and said, what's the most convenient time for you to have this podcast? You made it easier for me to be a guest simply by doing that. If that technology did not exist, it would have been a conversation like this. Roger, how's next week look? Next week looks pretty good. Here are 4 days that I have available at these 3 times. None of those days or those times work for me, but I do have one of those days at this time. I can see if I can move something. Like, feel how complicated that is? A piece of technology said, I'd like to book you for my podcast. Pick something that is convenient for you on this schedule, and you're done. It was super simple and it was super easy. You used a tool to create a better experience for me to be a guest on your show. You gave me ahead of time, like, here are things I'd like to talk about, so I'm prepared. I mean, you use behavioral marketing to get me as a guest. The way you reached out, the way you made it prepared, you made it easier for me to perform the behaviors you want to perform so we could have this conversation. This is behavioral marketing. This is a very instinctive process. And there's a lot of people who are great at it who have no idea that they're great at it. What I've taught companies, what I've taught individuals when I go speak is, how can you take this very instinctive human process and make it a conscious one? Because if you can make it a conscious one, you're going to be able to outcompete every one of your contemporaries, simply because you're thinking about it differently. Okay, totally fine.
Yes, Roger. So be very careful because I will shoot, huh? I will not hesitate. You cannot elaborate and you cannot take time to think, right?
Okay,
So, okay, mother's best advice.
always be learning.
Alternate profession could have been.
Sniper.
Honestly. What would you do on
Ah,
Mars for fun?
geology.
Okay. As per your wife, your most often used phrase.
I love you.
Lucky.
Usually followed by I'm sorry. And I'm not sure which one's correct at any given moment.
Oh shit, you shouldn't have told that. Change the entire meaning. Okay. One thing no one knows about you.
I once got helicopter rescued out of the Himalayas.
Oh my God, that's a book in itself, right? A book you'd like to gift to all your friends cannot be your own.
Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.
Oh, lovely. Okay. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Invest in Google at the IPO.
Okay, that's very wise. What's something new happening in your life right now?
I am working on getting my cardio back up on cycling after a very bad accident last year.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite childhood memory?
My father taking me to Disney World.
Wow. Okay. If you were to devote the rest of your life to philanthropy, what cause would you choose?
Orphan children. I
Hmm.
adopted my two children from Russia, and so we supported orphanage in several countries, and so that's a big cause for me.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And what is your greatest joy?
My family.
What is one missed opportunity you wish you could have a second chance at?
I had a chance to go to work for Apple, and I think that would have been interesting.
Okay. Note. What is your jagged edge? Your gift that in its raw form is a contribution to the world.
I think my creativity. I have a background in creative for multinational agencies, and I've turned that into becoming a behavioral strategist and helping brands be able to realize possibilities they didn't know were there. And while that's the work part of me, I do consider myself a global citizen and a world traveler. I really love going to other places and learning about the human condition, sort of understanding how other cultures work. I've been to 50 different countries, and I'm looking forward to the next one, always. Uh, and that human experience teaches me more about my business and helps me in ways that honestly sometimes I can't even fathom. Um, so that also did lead to the book, which is I have a copy, Outthink, Outperform. Get it there. And that came out in last summer, and it's can be purchased everywhere, anywhere around the world. I think I've seen people buy it now in I think around 2 dozen countries. So it's doing very well. It's got me some very good speaking opportunities. So uh, if you like this podcast, you like this conversation that we had, I would certainly encourage you to go get that. And then as far as getting hold of me, just use my name, Roger Hurni, Rogerhurni. RogerHurni.com is my website. My LinkedIn is Roger Hurni. I have like 1 minute marketing behavioral marketing tips and behavioral economic tips on TikTok and on Instagram at Roger Hurni. And that's how you can get a hold of me. Well, the one thing I've learned from Jagged, and the reason I would recommend you and the Jagged podcast, the conversation and the conversations I've heard with other guests are incredibly insightful. You find this unique way of pulling out very valuable tidbits of information and then making them digestible for your audience so that instead of this large conversation or this long piece of copy that someone spews out of their mouth like me, because I'm very verbose, you bring it down to a soundbite. Roger spoke for 3 minutes, but here's the one thing you need to remember. Here's the net takeaway. And I think there's a lot of value in listening to the podcast, but getting that insight that you encapsulate so well.
Oh my God, that was so nice. I'm glad that this is how it occurred for you because yeah, that was the attempt as well. Thank you so much, Roger, for finding time and being my guest today. And I hope,
Thank you.
yeah, I hope we stay in touch and you write more books or whenever you're coming to India next, give me a shout.